perfectly. That prana flows in and you exhale out. And it flows in and you exhale out. Just notice what a perfect part of a perfect creation each breath is. Allow that awareness to merge fully in the breath. So there's always a lot else going on. Sights and sounds and smells and other sensations and thoughts and memories and so much. But be really deliberate with your awareness. That's one of the great skills that meditation teaches us, is how to be intentional with our attention. How to be intentional with our awareness. It's not just that something is there, so suddenly we have to pay attention to it. We have a choice. Learn to use that choice. Grow it like a muscle. And allow that awareness, that attention, to stay anchored in your breath as it flows perfectly in and perfectly out. And as you breathe, notice that on the inhalations, you're breathing prana from the outside and bringing it to the inside. And on the exhalations, you're exhaling from the inside to the outside. Just notice that for a few minutes, that we're bringing the outer to the inner on the inhalations, and then bringing the inner to the outer on the exhalations. Now, for the next few moments, I want you to keep your body 100% physically still. Don't move, don't fidget. Just keep that body absolutely still. Keeping the awareness on the breath, but the body absolutely still. And allow yourself to notice when you do that suddenly the border between inner and outer starts to dissolve. Notice that where before it seemed really like you were bringing from the outer to the inner, or the inner to the outer, that now as you hold your body absolutely still, don't move at all. Notice that in that stillness, that boundary between inner and outer dissolves. Suddenly there is no inner and there is no outer. There's just breath. Allow yourself to sit in that awareness of that dissolving of the border between inner and outer. There is no border. There's only breathing. Slowly and gently, bring your hands together at chest level in Namaste and rub the palms of your hands against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly lower the hands and open the eyes. Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together with you all. Were you able to feel that? Were you able to feel that dissolving of that boundary between self and other? It's a very special experience that happens, but in order to experience it, you have to keep the body absolutely still. There's a part of the brain that's focused on what we call proprioception, which has to do with kind of where my body is in the world. And it's very important. It's the part of my brain that keeps me from tripping over the table when I stand up to walk out, or bumping into doors, or really understanding sort of physically how much space I occupy and how to navigate my way through. But if you hold the body absolutely still, that center in the brain starts to quiet. And if you can get it really quiet, it's one of the centers in the brain that when they study, the brains of expert monk meditators, that they notice a lot of changed activity in that part of the brain, that it becomes really, 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 really quiet. Which is, you can think of it as kind of the neurological aspect of the experience of oneness. If I've got the part of my brain that's all focused on me in space, firing all over the place, then it's all about me versus table. I'm here, there's table. I'm here, there's tripod. I'm here, there's you. But if that part becomes really quiet, then there just is isness. Then suddenly my brain is not trying to place me as a separate object in a world with all of these other objects. And we tend to have those beautiful experiences of oneness, of that sense of losing where you end and the world begins, and just kind of that sense of melting and merging. So one of the easiest and most powerful ways to make that happen, or to allow that to happen rather, is just to hold the body absolutely still. Not rigid. Because to be rigid, I'm actually still using my muscles a lot. But just still. And slowly, 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 you start to have that beautiful experience of kind of melting and merging into the world. And when it's coupled with a meditative practice, then it gets very, very deep and beautiful. So I'm so glad that you could experience that. So starting with a question from our online internet family, and then we'll open it up to our in-person here on the banks of Ganga family. How is it possible for humans to be so incredibly cruel and inhumane? So much hatred in their hearts. I just can't fathom any set of circumstances that would create such evil in anyone. From Tommy in Brighton. So Tommy, I have to say, on some level, I find myself just as perplexed. The level of rage, of hatred that we see in the world it's perplexing to the vast majority of us. Like, okay, we've all been mad. We've all maybe had people who we wished would just sort of disappear from the face of the planet. But that level of hatred that is so powerful that it actually could inspire you to give up your life in order to bring harm to the one you hate. That hatred which literally is bigger than anything else in your world, more important than your own life. It's It's almost unfathomable to most of us. And I think this is where it's really important to realize it's not about evil. When we think about it as evil, it's unfathomable. How is it that people could just somehow have that level of hatred, that level of evil in them? And I don't think about it like that. And the reason is that from a psychological standpoint, there certainly are people throughout history, in many cases they tend to become serial killers, who really have something very wrong in their brain, or something very, very, very wrong that happened to them in their childhood, coupled with something very wrong in their brain, coupled frequently with different types of drugs and substance abuse, that leads them to be able to behave in certain ways, whether we speak about psychopaths or sociopaths or people with all kinds of different aspects of brain-causing personality. But when you see what we're seeing in the world today, this terrorism, I've never seen a study on it, but my guess would be actually that you're not seeing psychopaths in it. You're not seeing the personality of those who turn into serial killers. But rather what you're seeing is something that has been cultivated very deliberately, very calculatively, over a very long period of time, but through a very specific way. It's a rare terrorist who just sort of blossoms on their own without any input or indoctrination or brainwashing from anywhere else and just decides to go out and kill people. There is a system here. In the same way that most people don't wake up one day being able to do advanced physics or calculus. I mean, every once in a while you get a genius who, as a kid just somehow intuits it. But it's very, 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 very rare. Most of us can only do that stuff because we've gone through school. First we got arithmetic, then we got multiplication, then we got algebra. Slowly, slowly they build it up, year by year by year, until by the time they bring in calculus, it makes sense because we've had all the building blocks. And this is what is happening with those who are being brought into war, into terror. This isn't an overnight situation. These are people who are being educated, cultivated to hate, number one. There's a whole science of the psychology around this, of how do you make people hate someone else, blame someone else for everything that's wrong with you. Imagine that you were given by someone you trusted, by someone much more powerful, much smarter than you are, and that you are maybe not so well educated. And you're given what sounds like a very plausible reason for every single problem you face. Here's why you're poor. Here's why your kid got sick and died last year. Here's why your husband doesn't have a job. Here's why the pollution is bad. Here's why this. Here's why that. It's those people. And imagine that you're told that year after year after year, and you are surrounded only by people who believe that. And everything that goes wrong, what we are told is, it is those people. They are the ones doing this to you. Well, you'd hate them, right? Imagine as kids you're told, this is why your father died. That is why your mother is sick. That is why this. That is why. Those people. And imagine that they're teaching that to you not only in after-school extracurricular activities, but in school. That this is your education, this is your TV, your radio, your social media, your books, your entire community. You'd believe it. You'd hate. And some of you, not all of you, but some of you, based on your own personal experiences, based on your own psychology, would be able quite easily to turn that hate into violence. Some of you would be ready when the call went out for we need people to come and to fight for that which is right. Many of you would be able to do that. Again, not all, but many would be. And this is how terrorists are born. And this is how they're created. And so it's not about the individual. I remember when academically, my background is psychology, and I remember we were, in my PhD program, we were studying the psychology of the Holocaust. Now, to most people, think, my God, how is it that those bad, evil German people could do that? I mean, it wasn't just Hitler, it was thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of Germans who were the SS soldiers. How could those people do this? But psychologically, what they learned and what we studied wasn't that the German people were bad. The German people were good people like everybody's good people. But the way that the Holocaust was done so deliberately, so calculatively, that what they did, for example, was every single person only had one tiny responsibility. There was not one person who put the Jews on the train, took them off the train, took them into the gas chamber and turned on the gas. One person's job was simply, you see that line of Jews coming? Put them on the train. Somebody else's job was, when the train stops, you just usher them off. Somebody else's job was, as they walk by you, usher them this direction. Somebody else's job was, usher them into the room. Ultimately, the final guy's job was, turn on the switch. But when they interviewed them afterwards, like nice, good, normal German people, family people, not people who have that level of evilness in them, how could you do it? What every one of them said was, well, I only turned on the switch. Like, they were already in the room. They were going to die. If it wasn't me, somebody else would have flipped the switch. Well, I only put them in the room. I wasn't in charge of what was going to happen once they got there. Well, I only put them on the train. I didn't know where they were going. And it was so calculatively done that perhaps the greatest evil that has ever been brought upon a group of people on planet Earth was done and executed by a country full of nice, good, not evil people, because of the system of how it was put into place. And as terrorism has become more and more widespread, the science of psychology, the science of brainwashing, the science of creating hatred, of breeding people who are prepared to blow themselves up, for example. The science has gotten a lot more advanced. And so don't think about it as all of those people who are evil. Think about it as all of those people who were systematically, calculatedly brainwashed to hate, and who are doing what in their minds is the right answer. And so while we hate the actions and we hate the system that has bred these people, and we hate the hatred and the terror and the tragedies, we try very hard to find compassion in our hearts for those people, knowing that if we were in their shoes, no matter how much we might like to think, oh, I would never. Take an introduction to psychology of mind control class and you'll learn the vast majority of people who actually do. They've done these studies of, given the right circumstances, given the right indoctrination, given the right situation, environment, time period, the vast majority of humans actually can be made to engage in horrific behaviors. And it's why we work so hard spiritually to stay anchored in our humanity, to stay anchored in love, to stay anchored in truth. It's not something to feel bad about, it's just the nature of nature. It's the nature of the way our brains work. They've harnessed all of those tricks, they've hacked it, literally. So we feel compassion for those who have been hacked. And we pray that the Mother Goddess, these days of Navaratri, fills their hearts with understanding and compassion. And we pray that the system itself may be disbanded and disabled, so that we shall teach our children to love rather than teach our children to hate. But thank you for the beautiful question. Other questions? Anyone that any question anyone here has? Yeah.
What do you have to pay attention to internally?
What do you, I'm sorry, say that again?
What do you have to pay attention to internally in order to act or not to act facing a given situation?
Facing an?
A given situation.
I'm sorry? A giving situation. Given situation. Thank you. What is the internal work we need to do to react or not in certain situations? Beautiful. So, Pujya Swamiji always says, he gives what he calls a beautiful multivitamin of spiritual health. And the multivitamin is meditation. In the mornings we meditate, and all day as much as we can. And then through the day we practice no reaction. And at night we practice introspection. So no reaction. In order to not react, we have to realize that I, the internal experience of I, my happiness, my peace, my truth, myself, is not dependent upon that which is happening in the outer world. Somebody else's words, actions, choices, fears, anger, confusion, problems, whatever it may be, are not that which determine how I feel or how I act. Think about emails. These days we all have very good spam filters and not very much comes through. But nonetheless, every once in a while you still get junk mail. And in the beginning we all got lots of junk mail. And most of junk mail, if you remember, was based on increasing certain body parts. Certain body parts for men, certain body parts for women. And so you would open up your inbox and the titles of emails would essentially be flashing at you of how you needed to increase the size of a particular body part of yours, depending on whether you were male or female, a different body part. Now, I mention that because as annoying as junk mail was, I never heard of anyone who ever saw that email and thought, oh my God, am I too small? Oh my God, does everybody know that I'm too small? Oh my God, I'm so hurt, I'm too small. We all understood this is junk mail, it's spam. It's junk, it has nothing to do with me. Some random person is sitting in some random country trying to get people to buy non-existent augmentation surgeries or whatever it was, or some potion or pill. And they're just sending out thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of emails at once, hoping that, a few people will respond. But you don't take it personally. You look at it and you don't think, oh my God. Because it's junk. So it's easy not to react. And this is really the lesson for it in life. We react and get hurt because we mistake and think it's about me. Oh my God, me, I'm hurt. But that which somebody who's angry or stressed or confused or afraid or in the midst of their own karmic drama says to you or does to you doesn't actually have any more to do with you than some random person telling you that your certain said body parts are too small. They're both junk. Nothing to do with you. And this is where we need to really learn and develop the muscle of essentially recognizing things that are junk mail in our lives. Could be someone's words, it could be someone's actions, but meaning all of those things that actually don't have anything to do with you, that are just about someone else's story, their own issues. And that's when we learn not to react. That's the inner work, is to realize this is not about me. It's not about me. Yeah, I know they're insulting me, but it's really not about me. They are angry, confused, jealous, frustrated, resentful, ashamed, guilty, but whatever they are going through. It's due to that they have spewed this at me. So we don't react. Right? Last night we were talking about something in which I was saying, if someone's got, or maybe it was the night before, if someone's got a stomach flu or food poisoning, and you stand too close to them and they vomit on you, well, they didn't actually mean to vomit on you. They just happened to be sick and you happened to be standing too close. So you're going to change your clothes, you're going to have a shower, but you're not going to need therapy about it. Because you understand it's not about me. It's not that person sat over there waiting, oh yeah, when she comes, I'm going to puke all over her. They didn't plan it like that. They're sick. You were there. They were vomiting. You happened to be standing in front of them. You got vomited on. But it's not about you. It's about their stomach flu or their food poisoning. And in the same way, when people metaphorically vomit their own anger or fear or shame or resentment or jealousy or whatever it may be onto us, you take a shower, you change your clothes, and you move on. Because that wasn't about me. You pray for them. May they get better soon. And you move on. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
Jai Gange.
Jai Gange.
How can one be connected? How can one be grounded and connect with the divine self within?
Beautiful. How do we get grounded and connect with the divine self within? So here's what's really beautiful. The divine self is actually the most present and prominent and true and unchanging part of us. It's not like grabbing something that's fleeting. You know, you may wake up in the morning and you have kind of a vague recollection of a dream. And for those of us who are interested in those things, you try to hold on to it because you want to remember it. Because you want to analyze it later, like, what did that mean? But it's very, very difficult to hold on to it. It's fleeting, it's kind of gone. But your true self is not like a dream. It's not fleeting like that. It's always there. It's the most present and true aspect of yourself. And the way to access it is simply to remove that which is not self. So the practice, the meditative practice that's the most powerful, is the one called Neti Neti, in which you sit in your meditative posture and you do it as a meditation. You begin by saying, I am not the clothes that I wear. Obvious. I am not the skin beneath my clothes. I am not the muscles beneath the skin. I am not the bones beneath the muscles. And you go slowly, slowly through every part of the body. And most of that's very easy because there's no rebellion in the mind. There's no part of the mind that says, oh yeah, I'm my femur bone. Like, we know we're not. So you keep getting this, yes, 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 inside. But then you start to get more subtle. And after you've gone through all the physical parts of the body, I'm not my organs, not my kidneys, not my liver, not my blood cells. We go subtler and subtler. And then you start to say, I am not the chemistry in my brain. I am not serotonin. I am not norepinephrine. I am not dopamine. Okay. Well, if I am not the chemicals, and I am not the electricity that goes down the axon of my neuron, causing those chemicals to be secreted, well, then that means I am not my thoughts. That means I'm not my emotions. That means I'm not my memories. Because everything that takes place in your mind, from an emotion to a feeling to a thought to a memory, is just a collection, a pattern of chemicals being secreted due to different electrical signals. That's all it is. There's no thought in the mind. It's just different chemicals being secreted in different parts of the brain at different rates and different amounts, having different impacts on different neural pathways. We call it a thought. We call it an emotion. But as long as we can realize, hey, I'm not an electrical impulse. Like, the core of who I am is not an electrical impulse. The core of who I am is not a neurotransmitter. Or not a hormone. I'm not cortisol. I am not the chemical being secreted by my adrenal glands. Right? We all understand that. But then by definition, that means I am not my anxiety. Right? And that starts to get more subtle. But we go piece by piece. I am not this, neti neti, not this, not that. And slowly, 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 after you've gone through everything, not my memories, not my thoughts. The other way we know we're not our thoughts is if you were your thoughts, then on those very rare, beautiful moments where there's actually a space between your thoughts, if you were the thought, you would therefore disappear in the space between the thoughts. And if you disappeared, who's the one left to have the next thought? So clearly I'm not my thoughts because I don't disappear in between them. And slowly you remove all of that which you are not. And you come into a space that the Buddhists tend to refer to as nothingness, shunyata. The Hindus tend to refer to as everythingness, purnyata, fullness, wholeness. But it's the same space. It's just two different ways of thinking about it. It's either nothing, as in everything I thought I was, it's all gone. Or it's everything, as in I used to think I was just this, now I know I'm not this, now I'm everything. But either way, you fall into that space where the experience of the true self emerges. It's all that's left. And then the beautiful thing is you can do it during the day. So you should have the practice of doing it in a seated meditative practice. But then you get to remind yourself all day long. So someone says something obnoxious to you, junk mail. You're just about to react. But then you remember, not this. Not this. I am not this. Not this. And it's a beautiful practice. You pass the window of a department store and you see your reflection. Some of us see our reflection and we say, wow, I'm so beautiful. Some of us see our reflection and we say, oh my God, I'm so fat, or I'm so skinny, or whatever. But either way, you see the reflection. The moment the thought arises, oh, I'm so beautiful, or oh, I'm so ugly. Not this. I am not the body. Not this. I'm not my perfect figure. I'm not my extra weight. I'm not my not this. Not this. We do something, we succeed, we achieve, we feel very proud. But you remember, not this. Not this. You fail at something. You feel awful. You remember, not this. Not this. Not this. All day long you get to just keep practicing it. So I think that's There's a lot of ways, of course, but I think that's, as a practice, perhaps the most powerful and simple to implement. Not easy, but simple to implement practice. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evenings. As I mentioned last night, but for those of you who aren't here, we are having a very special Navaratri retreat that just started today, and it'll go until the 24th. It includes beautiful programs of yoga, meditation, pranayama, so many other things, so many different talks and practices and teachings and nature walks and fire ceremonies and of course arti and satsang and so much. So we invite you all to be part of it. It's completely on a donation basis, as all of that we do here is. And even if you can't join us for all 5 days, but you can join us just for a few, you're more than welcome to join. Sevanandaji will lovingly stay back for a few minutes to answer any questions that anyone has or help people get registered if you'd like to. And I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, and a beautiful day to our family joining us from all over the world. And so much love to you all.